Hello everyone and welcome you to GST Workshop Series 2021. We are very happy this year. Apart from the main workshop that we do every year, this year we have come up with something very innovative. One of our pillars that we had thought for the theme 2021 was innovation. And I'm thankful to the IDT Committee Chairman C.A. Bishan Shah for coming up with a real innovative idea wherein we are also giving you pre-recorded introductory sessions wherein the speakers will be sharing with you very important rules, insights and amendments pertaining to the topic which the main faculty is going to cover in the workshop. I am extremely thankful to all the faculties who have agreed to come and share their knowledge, share the pre-recorded videos, and I am sure this step of ours will be a great enriching value add to all of you. Thank you once again for having the trust in Ahmedabad and attending this series, and your suggestions and feedback are always welcome. Thank you so much.
Welcome all the participants. We at Ahmedabad branch of WRC of ICAI are very much thankful to our chairman CA Harit Dhariwal sir, who has given us a motto and aim and vision for the year, which is ICAI: ideation, collaboration, adaptability and innovation. With that, we come with this introductory lectures which are pre-recorded for all of you. And in any game, it is said that your soldiers are required to be on your table. As GST is a big game changer for the businesses, we chartered accountants are always ready and equipped to help our businesses and clients at any moment of time with swift and smartly. And that's why we have recorded all these videos which will enable you to solve your issues related to GST, and you will be able to help your clients in a much better way, as we all are passing through this difficult time, and for GST we need some refreshing knowledge pools. So that's why we have recorded this video. I hope the same will be helpful to all of you, and happy learning. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you very much.
A very good afternoon to all the participants. Today at Ahmedabad branch of WRC of ICAI, we have organized GST workshop series, in which I have been allotted a topic which is analysis of time of supply of goods and services. So the sections that we are going to cover is section 12 and section 31 as far as time of supply of goods are concerned, and as far as time of supply of services are concerned, we will be referring to section 13 and section 31 of this act. Now let us examine the provision of section 12 for the purpose to determine time of supply of goods. Before getting into the provisions and reading out what the law has been written down, we must understand what is time of supply. Time of supply is a point in time wherein the taxpayer is supposed to discharge the GST liability. So this helps the registered person or the taxpayer to determine at what point in time they are supposed to discharge their GST liability according to this act. Now let us refer to section 12 subsection 1 of the act, which says the liability to pay tax on goods, kindly emphasize on the word goods, shall arise at the time of supply as determined in accordance with the provision of this section. So categorically subsection 1 says that as far as goods are concerned, the liability to pay the tax should be determined in the following subsections. Let us analyze subsection 2 of section 12, which is the time of supply of goods shall be the earlier of the following dates, namely clause A, date of issue of invoice by the supplier, or the last date on which he is required under section 31 to issue the invoice with respect to the supply. Now let us come down to the last phrase of this slide, which says as per section 31 subsection 1, the invoice needs to be issued either before or at the time of removal of goods where the supply involves movement of goods or delivery of goods or making goods available to the recipient in any other case. Which says section 31 subsection 1 governs that the supplier is supposed to raise the invoice before or at the time of removal of supply of goods or delivery of goods or making goods available to the recipient. Now getting back to clause A of subsection 2 section 12, which says the date of issue of invoice by the supplier or the last date on which is required to raise the invoice as per section 31. For example, there is a company called A Limited and there is a company called B Limited. Here A Limited is operating as a supplier, whereas B Limited is operating in the capacity of a recipient. Now A Limited is entering into an agreement to supply goods to B Limited, that is to his customer. On 1st of April, I am entering into a contract to supply goods to B Limited. The supply of goods happens on 5th of April. That is, the goods are getting removed from the factory of A Limited on 5th of April. So, as per clause A, subsection 2, section 12, the supplier is liable to raise the invoice. The supplier is liable to raise the invoice before or at the time of removal of goods. In the instant case, it would be either on 5th of April or before 5th of April. So, the time of supply in the instant case would be the date on which the supplier issues the invoice. So, if in this case, if supplier issues the invoice on 5th of April and also removes the goods on 5th of April, so as per section 12, subsection 2 clause A, 5th of April will be the time of supply of the goods. Now, we also had clause B in this particular subsection to section 12, which says the date on which the supplier receives the payment with respect to supply. Now, dear friends, it may be informed that with effect from 5th November 2017, wide notification number 66/2017 central tax, this has been omitted. So, as far as supply of goods is concerned, the time of supply for the receipt of payment received by the customer in form of advance will be irrelevant to determine time of supply of goods to this particular section 12 subsection 2. Coming to a proviso which says, provided that where a supplier of taxable goods receives an amount up to 1000 rupees in excess of the amount indicated in the tax invoice, the time of supply to the extent of such excess amount shall be the option of the said supplier, be the date of invoice in respect of such excess amount. Now, let us understand this particular proviso through an example. A Limited supplies the goods to B Limited for an invoice amount of 1 lakh plus GST, which comes down to 1,18,000, and here the GST rate happens to be 18%. Now, as A Limited working in the capacity of a supplier is supplying the goods to B Limited, B Limited being the customer, now B Limited would be paying the amount to A Limited for the supply of goods made. If in case the B Limited is paying an amount which is 1,18,000 plus in excess of 1,000, which is 1,19,000. So, in this particular case, the 1,000 excess amount which has been received from B Limited to A Limited, the A Limited being the supplier has an option to adjust this 1,000 in the next billing cycle, or he may adjust it in the date on which he issues the invoice in the subsequent transaction. So, for this particular proviso, we can understand that A Limited is not liable to discharge the tax on the excess amount received from B Limited according to this proviso. Now coming to section 12 subsection 3, which talks about reverse charge mechanism. As you know, reverse charge mechanism is a mechanism wherein the recipient happens to be liable to discharge GST on the transactions entered. Now as we are referring to section 12, as I referred earlier, that this section 12 is only and only addressing goods. So we'll be talking about reverse charge, the time of supply for reverse charge mechanism as far as goods are concerned. According to the government notification, there are certain list of goods which are being notified by the government stating that these items on which the recipient will be held liable to pay the tax. Now in the first example we had A Limited being a supplier, B Limited being a recipient. We'll continue with this example. Now let us read this subsection. In case of supply in respect of which the tax is paid or liable to be paid on reverse charge basis, the time of supply shall be the earliest. Whichever event happens earlier will be the time of supply of the following dates, namely A, the date of the receipt of goods, or the date of payment as entered in the books of accounts of the recipient, or the date on which the payment is debited in his bank account, whichever is earlier, or the date immediately the following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice or any other document by whatever name called in lieu thereof by the supplier. Now let us understand by an example. Here A Limited being a supplier, B Limited being a recipient. A Limited is entering into an agreement to supply goods to B Limited, and mind well, this particular goods is notified as a goods which is falling under reverse charge mechanism. So on this particular transaction, the liability to pay the tax will be on B Limited. Now let us scrutinize the transaction and determine what would be the time of supply. For example, A Limited is supplying the goods on 5th of April. He has raised the invoice on 1st of April. Now my goods, the A Limited has already dispatched the goods to B Limited. Now B Limited is receiving the goods to his factory on 10th of April. For this particular transaction, B Limited is paying the consideration to A Limited on 12th of April. So in this case, what would be the time of supply? My invoice date happens to be 1st April. My date of the date of dispatch from A Limited's factory is 5th of April. The B Limited is receiving the goods on 10th of April, and the payment made by B Limited to A Limited is on 12th of April. Now dear friends, earliest of the following events has to be analyzed. So here B Limited has received the goods on 10th of April, is paying it on 12th of April, and as you can see on the screen, clause C is very much clear, which says immediately following 30 days from the date of invoice. So which is 1st of May. So now we have 3 dates: receipt of goods on 10th of April, payment made on 12th of April, and the date immediately following 30 days from the date of issue of invoice happens to be on 1st of May. So here the earliest of the events is the date of receipt of goods. So B Limited is supposed to discharge GST liability being the time of supply, which is 10th of April. There is a proviso under it which says, provided that where it is not possible to determine the time of supply under clause A or clause B or clause C, the time of supply shall be the date of entry in the books of accounts of the recipient of supply. So any of the above situation does not seem to be happening, and if there is an entry in the books of account for this particular transaction, that the date of entry would be the time of supply. Now coming to section 12 subsection 4, which talks about vouchers. Now first of all we need to understand what are vouchers. Voucher is an instrument which is used as a payment mode for the supplies received by the customers. So this voucher can be used as a payment against the supply of goods. Now let us get down to the subsection which says, in case of supply of vouchers by a supplier, the time of supply shall be A, the date of issue of voucher if the supply is identified at that point, or B, the date of redemption of voucher in all other cases. Now let us understand this particular subsection by an example. I go down to a jeweler showroom. For better understanding, we take it Tanishq. Tanishq being a retail chain gold jewelry outlet across India. On certain purchases, they have offered me a voucher of 1000 rupees off on the subsequent purchase of any jewelry. Now the voucher which has been issued by Tanishq to me as a customer, it only says that you will be getting a discount of 1000 on the subsequent purchase of any jewelry. Here either I am unaware and the Tanishq people are unaware that what would be my subsequent purchase. It could be a gold chain, it could be a necklace, it could be an earring, but the voucher does not define that I will be getting 1000 rupees off on either earrings or on gold chain or any necklace. So here the voucher is silent about the supplies which are going to be supplied in the subsequent transaction. So it happens to be a voucher where the supply is not identified. Tanishq people does not know what I am going to buy in my subsequent transaction. Neither I am unaware that what I am going to buy in my subsequent transaction. The voucher simply says that you will get 1000 rupees off on the subsequent purchase of any jewelry. So here when the supply is not identified, the time of supply will be the date on which I redeem my voucher. The date on which I redeem my voucher. So when I go down to Tanishq, I buy some gold necklaces and against which I offer a voucher getting 1000 rupees off. So at that point in time, the time of supply will get triggered. Now what about the vouchers issued which clearly says that you will get one pair of shoes or a shirt or a jeans? So this kind of vouchers are such vouchers where the supplies are identified at the time when the vouchers are issued. I am aware, being a customer, that I will be able to redeem this voucher for a shirt which is very much clearly mentioned in the voucher itself. So for such issuance of voucher, the time of supply will be the date on which the voucher is issued to me as a customer. Coming to a residual entry to this section 12, which says where it is not possible to determine the time of supply under the provision of subsection 2, which is a general provision for goods, subsection 3, which is for reverse charge, or subsection 4, which is for vouchers, the time of supply shall A, in case where periodical returns has to be filed, B, the date on which such return is to be filed, or in any other cases, be the date on which the tax is paid. Coming to section 12, subsection 6, which talks about any delay payment for the consideration, the time of supply to the extent it relates to an addition in the value of supply by way of interest, late fee or penalty for delay payment of any consideration shall be the date on which the supplier receives such addition in value. For an example, A Limited supply goods to B Limited for an invoice value of 1 lakh plus 18% GST, that comes down to 1,18,000, and A Limited has clearly mentioned in the invoice that if you does not pay this particular consideration within 15 days of the date of invoice, he'll be charged an interest of 1.5% per month. On such failure on payment by B Limited, A Limited is entitled to claim interest amount for the supply of goods made to B Limited. For example, if the interest amount per month turns out to be 1500, here B Limited is failing to pay an amount to A Limited, so A Limited is entitled to get an interest of 1.5% per month. So the interest amount that I am going to receive from B Limited probably may not be in the April itself, I will be getting it in May. So for such addition in value on which I am going to discharge my GST liability, for that particular 1500 addition in the value of supply, the time of supply will be the date on which the supplier is receiving such addition in value. So 1500 I am getting in the month of May. So for A Limited being the supplier, the time of supply as far as rupees 1500 in form of interest will get triggered in the month of May. Now coming to section 31 subsection 4, which talks about continuous supply of goods. Now let me tell you in brief what is continuous supply of goods. A supplier under a contract or on a recurrent basis is supplying some goods to his customer, for which he will be issuing a successive statement for the supplies that he is making on a continuous basis to his customer. Now getting down to the subsection 4 of section 31, which says where the successive statement of accounts or such successive payments are involved, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time each such statement is issued, or as the case may be, each such payment is received. Now let us understand this also by an example. A Limited being a supplier, supplying some goods, maybe through a wire, maybe through a pipeline, maybe through a conduit to B Limited on a continuous basis. A Limited is liable to supply some petroleum items which is going to be delivered through a pipeline which is annexed to the factory of B Limited, and this particular flow of goods, which is petroleum product, is happening on a continuous basis, and it has been decided that A Limited will issue a statement along with an invoice on every 10th of the following month. For example, we take it April as the continuous supply of goods which is happening in April, April being the month. He will be issuing the successive statement on 10th of May. So the time of supply for this particular supply of goods which is happening on a continuous basis for the month of April will be the 10th of May, or any payment is received in terms of this particular continuous supply of goods. Usually such transactions which are entered, the successive statement is issued and on the same date the invoice is also issued. So which is very well within the boundaries of the law. Law simply says that if you are issuing any successive statement of accounts for the continuous supply of goods, you shall issue an invoice either before the issuance of successive statement of accounts or at the time on which you are issuing the successive statement of accounts. Now coming down to section 31 subsection 7, which talks about approval basis, which says notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1 of section 31, so this being an overriding effect, where the goods being sent or taken on approval for sale or return are removed before the supply takes place, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of supply or 6 months from the date of removal, whichever is earlier. Now this, let us understand this particular subsection with an example. I go down to a retail jeweler shop, I select some 5-6 samples for my parents, I request to the jeweler that can I take this particular 5-6 samples of necklace or any other jewelry item to my home so that I can show it to my parents, and from that particular 5-6 samples they will be choosing one of them, and on choosing one of them I will be intimating it to you, sir. So on that date you may issue me the invoice and for you it will be a sale. Now I am getting this 5-6 samples of jewelry to my home on approval basis for sale or return. It may also happen that out of 5-6 samples of jewelry that I am taking home to show it to my parents, none of them is of their choice, so we may return it to the jeweler. And it may also happen that out of 5-6 samples of jewelry that I am taking home, I may select 1 or 2. The parents may select 1 or 2 items, and that I will be intimating it to the retail jeweler. On 1st of April, I am going down to a jeweler shop, I am selecting 5-6 samples, I am taking it back to home, showing it to my parents. Now over a period of 6 months, the jewelry happens to be at my home, and still as on date I have not shown any sense of acceptance to the jeweler, and I have already completed a period of 6 months. So for such transaction, the time of supply will be the completion of 6 months, and which date would be it? It would be 1st of October. As you can see this subsection which says the invoice shall be issued before or at the time of supply or 6 months from the date of removal. So on 1st of April the jewelry were removed from the showroom, and from this date I have to see that when I am completing 6 months. So as you can see in this example, the 5-6 on the 5-6 samples of jewelry, I have not shown the acceptance that out of 5-6 jewelry I do not like any of them or none of them, but it still happens to be at my home. So for this jeweler, the time of supply for this 5-6 jewelry samples will be first date of October, and he will be discharging the liability accordingly. But what if I am getting it on 1st of April to my home, taking 15-16 days, and on 17th of April I am showcasing my acceptance to the retail jeweler that out of these 5-6 samples I am liking it 2-3 items, I want these items from you. For the rest items I will be giving it back to the jeweler. So on the date on which I am showing the acceptance will be the date on which the time of supply will get triggered for the retail jeweler. So for the two items that I am selecting it from the 5-6 samples, for this particular two items, the time of supply will be 17th April, because I am showcasing my acceptance to buy this particular jewelry from the retail jeweler. Now, as we have already discussed certain subsections of time of supply of goods, now let us go into the details of time of supply of services. Here section 13 subsection 1 governs to determine the time of supply of services under this act. Subsection 1, in a similar manner what we saw in goods, we have it for services as well. The liability to pay tax on services shall arise at the time of supply as determined in accordance with the provision of this section. So now we'll in detail we'll also see the subsections of section 13. Section 13 subsection 2, which talks about a general services. The time of supply of service shall be the earliest of the following dates, namely, clause A, the date of issue of invoice by the supplier if the invoice is issued within period prescribed under section 31, or the date of receipt of payment whichever is earlier. We'll take the clause one by one. Coming back to the same example, A Limited being the supplier, B Limited being the recipient. Here A Limited would be supplying services. A Limited has entered into an agreement to provide his consultancy services to B Limited. A Limited has already rendered his consultancy services to B Limited on 1st of April. So here the date of provision of service is 1st of April. Now if we see clause A, which says that if the invoice is issued within period prescribed under section 31. So if we refer to section 31, it asks us to take to rule 47, which says that 30 days are the prescribed period from the date of provision of services for which the supplier is supposed to issue an invoice. So from the date of provision of service, you get a period of 30 days, and within this period of 30 days, the supplier happens to be liable to issue the tax invoice. Now let us come to section 13 subsection 2, which covers the services. The time of supply of service shall be the earliest of the following dates. The clause A, which tells date of issue of invoice by the supplier only if the invoice is issued within a prescribed period under section 31, which is 30 days for normal suppliers and 45 days for banking and financial institute, or the date of receipt of payment whichever is earlier. For example, I being chartered accountant offering my services to my client, I offer my services and complete it on 1st of April. I raise my invoice on 5th of April and I am receiving the payment on 30th of April. Now if you see, on the completion of my service, I am issuing the invoice within the period of 30 days. I get a time up to 30th of April, but I am issuing on 5th of April, which is fulfilling the condition of clause A. So in this particular scenario, I have to see the date of issue of invoice and the payment. So I'm issuing the invoice on 5th of April and I'm getting the payment on 20th of April. So earliest of these two dates, which is 5th of April. Coming to clause B, which says the date of provision of service if the invoice is not issued within the prescribed period. So on 1st of April I am offering my services. I am not issuing the invoice within a period of 30 days. Maybe I am issuing the invoice on 5th of May and here I'm going beyond 30 days, and I'm getting the payment from my client on 20th of April. So here, as per clause B, I have to see the date of payment or the date of provision of service. As I am not issuing my invoice within the prescribed period, the date of provision of service is 1st of April and the date of payment, which is 20th of April, whichever the earlier dates would be my time of supply. So here 1st of April will be the time of supply according to clause B. C says the date on which the recipient shows the receipt of service in his books of accounts in case where the provision of clause A or clause B do not apply. There is a similar proviso in time of supply of service that we discussed in time of supply of goods, that if you get an amount in excess of 1000, it is at the option of the supplier to adjust it to the next billing cycle or to adjust it in the next invoice that he issues. Similarly, what we saw in goods, we also have a categorically provision for reverse charge mechanism for services as well. In case of services, the supply in respect of which the tax is paid or liable to be paid on reverse charge basis, the time of supply shall be the earlier of the following dates. So we'll go clause by clause. Clause A says the date of payment as entered in the books of accounts of the recipient, or the date on which payment is debited in his bank account, whichever is earlier. Or B, the date immediately following 60 days from the date on which issue of invoice or any other document by whatever name called in lieu thereof of the supplier. Now let us understand by taking an example. A Limited offering his consultancy services to B Limited. Here B Limited would be liable to discharge the tax as per section 13 subsection 3. Now let us have the dates of this transaction. On 1st of April I am offering my consultancy services. I am issuing the invoice on 1st of April itself. I am receiving the payments towards this consultancy services on 20th of April. Now what will be the time of supply to discharge GST liability from the perspective of B Limited? The clause A says that the date of payment as entered in the books of account of the recipient or the date on which the payment is debited in the books of account in his bank account. So let us take 20th April is the date on which the payment is made, and I also have one more clause to be looked after. I have to see the date immediately following 60 days from the date of issue of invoice. In the instant case, I am issuing the invoice on 1st of April. Now the immediate following 60 days will happen on 31st of May. I have to see the period of 60 days from the date of invoice. So now we have two dates, which is 20th of April being the date of payment and 31st of May being the date according to clause B. So the earlier dates of from this amongst these dates would be the time of supply. So here 20th April will happen to be the time of supply of services under reverse charge mechanism. There is also a proviso which says where it is not possible to determine the time of supply under clause A or clause B, the time of supply shall be the date of entry in which books of accounts of recipient of supply. Now coming to vouchers, as we discussed in section 12 subsection 4, that voucher being an instrument for paying against the supply of goods or services. So in similar manner, if the voucher quantifies that you will be getting some amount of supply in form of services, let us take an example. I go down to an restaurant. They offer me a voucher that you will get 1000 rupees off on your next order. But the voucher does not define or does not categorically identify that on what items I am going to get the 1000 rupees off. So here I am unaware being a customer that whether I am going to order pav bhaji, whether I am going to order pizza, whether I am going to order continental. Simple voucher says that you will get 1000 rupees off on your next order. So here the voucher is in such a manner where the supply is not identified. So in such situation, the time of supply will be the date of redemption of this voucher. What if the voucher says that you will be getting a pizza or a sandwich, which is a categorically mentioned supply that you are going to get in your next order? So in such situation, voucher mentions clearly that the supply is identified, that you being a customer, I am going to offer you a sandwich or I am going to offer you a pizza. So here the date on which the voucher is issued to the customer will be the date of time of supply. We also have a residual entry similarly that we saw in section 12 subsection 5, which says where it is not possible to determine the time of supply under the provision of subsection 2 or subsection 3 or subsection 4, the time of supply shall, clause A, in case where a periodical return has to be filed, be the date on which such return is to be filed, or clause B, in any other case, be the date on which the tax is paid. Coming to section 13 subsection 6, which says the time of supply to the extent it relates to an addition in value of supply by way of interest, late fee or penalty for delayed payment of any consideration shall be the date on which the supplier receives such addition in value. Taking the similar example that we added for time of supply of goods, A Limited offering the services to B Limited, and B Limited was supposed to pay him within 15 days from the date of issue of invoice. In the current example, B is failing to do so. So A Limited mentioned in his invoice that if it does not happen, if the failure of payment is there, B Limited will pay him 1.5% interest on the invoice value to the A Limited. So the interest that is going to get from his customer, which is B Limited, will probably in the month of April or either in the month of May, the day on which he receives such value from B Limited will be the time of supply to the extent of interest. Now coming to section 31 subsection 5, which talks about continuous supply of services. Clause A says where the due date of payment is ascertainable from the contract, the invoice shall be issued on or before the due date of payment. A Limited, working in the capacity of a works contractor, B Limited being a customer, gets into an agreement that A Limited will offer him a works contract service for his corporate house to his customer B Limited, and they have entered into a contract stating that on this dates, on the 10th date of the following month, you have to pay me so and so amount. So as per clause A, where the due date of payment is ascertainable from the contract, as A Limited and B Limited have come down in a contract and they have specifically mentioned that 10th day of the following month will be the date of payment. Here for this particular transaction, the invoice date would be on or before the due date of payment. So A Limited is supposed to raise an invoice for a particular month on 10th of the following month. Coming to clause B, which says where the due date of payment is not ascertainable from the contract, the invoice shall be issued before or at the time when the supplier of service receive the payment. Now A Limited has entered into a contract with B to provide works contract services to B Limited, but here having though they are having a good relationship, they have not decided the date of payment for the services which are going to be proposed by A Limited. So as and when B Limited is paying some amount for the works contract service provided by A Limited, that particular date will be the time of supply of this works contract services. Clause C, where the payment is linked to the completion of an event, the invoice shall be issued on or before the date of completion of that event. You may see that this practice is usually seen in builders, wherein they have this payment mechanism of event obligating payment, wherein the customer is liable to discharge some amount of consideration as and when the event is getting completed. You may have seen agreements wherein the builder is asking the customer that you are supposed to pay me 10% when the building is on the plinth level. You are going to discharge 20% of the consideration when it completes 5th floor. You are going to give me some more percentage of consideration as and when the floors are getting completed. And the last installment happens to be the date on which the building is being given to the customer for possession. So here the time of supply will be where the payment is linked to the completion of an event. So as and when the events are getting completed, I am going to issue the invoice according to clause C of subsection 5 section 31. It says the invoice shall be issued on or before the date of completion of an event. So if the plinth level is getting completed, I am going to get 10% of the customer, irrespective of whether customer pays me or not. I, being in the capacity of supplier of service as a builder, I am going to discharge the liability as per the agreement entered with the customer according to clause C, which says that if the event are getting completed, you are supposed to discharge the liability, and that on the date on which the event is getting completed will be my time of supply. Now coming to the section 31 subsection 6, which says in case where the supply of services ceases under a contract before the completion of the supply, the invoice shall be issued at the time when the supply ceases, and such invoice shall be issued to the extent of the supply made before such cessation. Now let us take an example. There is XYZ, a partnership firm, a chartered accountancy firm, is going to conduct an internal audit for a period of 12 months, and on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, is going to issue the internal audit report to his client. Now they have entered it into an agreement over a period of 12 months. Down the line, after completion of 5 months, now there is certain amount of dispute between the chartered accountancy firm and the client, and now the client does not want any sort of services from this particular XYZ chartered accountancy firm. So for this particular supply of service, the invoice shall be issued at the time when the supply ceases. So here I'm giving services over a period of 5 months, which is April, May, June, July and August. So for the period of April to August, I am supposed to issue the invoice when the invoice shall be issued at the time when the supply ceases. My supply is getting ceased on 31st of August. So that would be the date on which I am going to issue the invoice, and such invoice shall be issued to the extent of supply made before such cessation. So I am ceasing my services on 31st of August. So from April to August, I am going to raise the invoice, and 31st August will be the date on which I am going to raise the invoice. So hope you have a good learning experience regarding time of supply of goods and services. I once again thank Ahmedabad branch of WIRC for giving me a wonderful opportunity. Thank you.